According to the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association, about 80% of student pilots that start off getting their pilot's license fail to succeed and get their pilot's license. They either quit training or don't get their license. About 50% of the people who start their instrument training don't get their instrument rating. And about 80% of people who start to get their commercial pilot's license don't complete the training. In this video, I'm going to tell you why that is and how to overcome it. My name is Eric, and I am the Aviator. So when I first started out in my journey to get my pilot's license, I struggled with this very same thing that I'm talking about. And later on when I got my instrument rating, same type of thing. And now I'm working on my commercial, it's the same type of thing. And I wanted to reach out to some people and just encourage them to how to get over what I call the student's slump. As we all know, pilot training can cost a lot of money. It's a huge time commitment, and you have to do it relatively quickly so you don't forget everything. There's a lot of book knowledge. It doesn't necessarily perfectly correspond to practical knowledge, and so trying to combine the two and everything, it just takes a lot of mental power, and if you have a lot of stuff going on, it can be a great goal, but also something that can be very hard to do. And this is why we see a lot of those numbers in this dropout rate, because it's not an easy thing to do, especially when you have a lot of things going on. You have a family, you have kids, you have a job. It's not the easiest thing to do to set aside all that mental power and all that time and all that money. But usually when you're going into something like this, you know exactly how much it's going to cost. Usually, generally speaking, you know it's going to cost you about $10,000 to $12,000 to get your private pilot's license, and so on and so forth for your instrument and commercial. You know it's going to take you probably 50 to 60 hours of flight training. I got mine in 40 hours, and if you want to know how to do that, check out the video up there. But so it is possible to do it in less time, but it does generally take 50 to 60 hours or more. And then also you have about 30 to 40 hours of ground school training as well that you have to figure in. So, but most of these numbers are set. Like, we pretty much know what we're getting into when we start it, and it's really easy to plan out. So why do so many people fail? I don't think it has so much to do with a lack of planning, but a lack of interest. I talk to so many people and they say, oh yeah, I started my pilot's license. Oh yeah, I've got a few lessons. Oh yeah, I went up with an instructor. Oh, I did a discovery flight. Oh, I've got 20 hours of training. And people from all across, and they all started their pilot's license, but none of them got their pilot's license. It's crazy when I tell someone, hey, I'm a pilot, I like flying around, and they're like, really? Well, I actually had some pilot training. Oh, I'd love to be a pilot. I did some pilot training. And so this is the case for so many people. But what ends up happening is it's not that they don't have the money, it's not that they don't have the time, it's not that they don't have the mental power, but it takes so much of those three resources that about halfway through, for most people, they start to get bored with it. They start to realize, okay, this is not as glamorous as I thought. This is not as fun as I thought. It's not exactly what I expected. Maybe they weren't expecting how much mental power it would take. They knew the time and the money, but they didn't expect how much work and effort they'd have to put into it. And so many different variables, but they get through about halfway and they start realizing, I'm kind of bored with this. So why am I spending all this time, all this mental power, and all this money on something that I'm kind of bored with? And so they start to get into this dilemma, and they're like, you know what? I think I'm going to stop. And so this is the pilot slump. This is where so many people end up failing and not doing their commercial ratings, their instrument ratings, their multi ratings, their private pilot's license. They stop because they come to this realization, this is taking way too much time, way too much effort, way too much money for me not to actually like it. But I want to kind of combat that, because when I started my private pilot ground school, I think I was 17 at the time, and I didn't have any money, and I had time, but I didn't have any money. I didn't know how I was going to do it. But I bought an online ground school, and this is what I started with. And I got halfway through that ground school. I think it was about a 40-hour online ground school. I got halfway through it, and I was just thinking about giving up, because I thought, you know what, even if I can save up the money to get my pilot's license, I'll never be able to fly a plane because I can't afford it. I'll never be able to own a plane because they're so expensive. And so I had this dream to fly, but I didn't quite know how to go about it, and I wanted to just give up. But someone came to me and I said, I'd love to be a pilot, but I started my ground school and I kind of know what I need to do, but it's just so hard for me to do it. And they said, you know what? Here's the thing. If you get your pilot's license now, when you have the time, and you probably could get the money, and you have the mental capability, will you ever regret that decision? Imagine you're 65 years old, retired, and you have your pilot's license. Maybe you only have flown a few times. Maybe you didn't really fly throughout your career, but now you just need some reoccurring training and you can fly again. You don't have to take the check ride again. You don't have to go through all of the little nitty-gritty training. You just have to get proficient again with a CFI. They have to sign you off and you're done. And so even if you never fly again in your entire life, just looking back and saying, I did it, I flew, and I am a pilot, and having that certificate, do you think that's ever something you'll regret? Because the truth of it is just having that certificate that says you're a pilot is just cool. And a lot of people like it. A lot of people, I've always wanted to do that. And a lot of people start it and they don't finish. And that is how you get past the student's slump. Just tell yourself, you know what? Even if I never use the certificate, I've already started. I've already put time and money and investment into it. And it would be a complete and total waste if I stopped now. But if I keep at it and I just get that certificate, who knows what could happen? Chances are maybe I will like to fly. Maybe once the stress and the pressure of the check ride is over, maybe flying will become enjoyable again to me. And that is what happens, I would say, almost 100% of the time. They hit that student slump because the stress and the pressure of the check ride is coming up, and the CFI is trying to make sure that they know everything they need. But then I've had it happen with my private, I've had it happen with my instrument. Right, the day of the check ride, you're just like, okay, I'm done. But then a week later, you get back in the airplane and you're like, all right, this is actually very enjoyable, and things start coming back to you when the pressure's off. You know exactly what you're doing, and you're not nervous anymore because you just know what to do, what to expect, and it becomes very enjoyable. But even if you never have that experience, finishing those ratings, finishing that pilot's license is always going to be worth it when you look back on it. And so that is how you overcome that student slump. So if you are working on your pilot's license, you're watching these videos because you're a student pilot and you're working on your pilot's license, or maybe you have your pilot's license and you've been thinking about getting your instrument, your commercial, your multi-rating, just remember that finishing what you set out to do will never be something you regret. Never be something you regret. How many of you can look back at something you did and be like, you know what? I've never used that, but I'm glad I finished it. Maybe it's a college degree. I know so many people who started college and dropped out. I'm like, man, if you're going to start college, finish college, because you're 2 years in. You've already got the debt. You've already got everything. You might as well just finish it. And that's how I feel about pilot's license. That's how I feel about all these ratings. Is like when you start, just commit to finishing it. Even when it gets boring, even when it gets stressful, commit to finishing it. And that's how you overcome that student slump. This has been Eric, and I am the Aviator. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.